When you do triangle pose, it targets the stretch in your hamstring as well as your inner thigh of this front leg. But there are a few things that happen that most people don't even notice that's happening. First, there's limitation in their external rotation. So what tends to happen is the foot is turned in as they fold forward into their posture. And you can see this with the heel sticking out relative to the toes. A lot of times that's also paired with the butt sticking out to the side due to limited flexibility in your adductor or your inner thighs. But a lot of people tend to not notice because when they're down in this posture, they come into a back bend so they feel like they're stacked over their legs. Next, sometimes there's pain in the back of the knee, and that happens because there's a bit of hyperextension that happens. You see this sometimes when people cock their hips back and push the heel forward. Their knee tends to go back and the hamstring close to the knee attachment feels a little strained. So here's what you're gonna do instead. Because we want a range of motion that's gonna last, we're gonna target the nervous system. And we're gonna do that by applying a little bit of strength as we come into our end range. Typically, we come into triangle pose from like a warrior 1 or a warrior 2. So the legs tend to be about wrist width apart or a little bit shorter. You're gonna start out by squeezing the legs together and you'll feel the back of your front leg engage, and that's what you want. Then you're just gonna focus on tilting the pelvis. Just that little action, you should feel a little bit of a stretch happening in your hamstring already. If you feel like your hips are turning down, you can always open it up by squeezing the glute on the front leg. There you should feel a little bit more external rotation happening as well as abduction. Now, if you're doing it this way, you're gonna notice that you're not as deep into the pose as you normally are, and that's okay. That's what we're looking for. You can always place your hand on the thigh if you need a little bit more support, but I always like to just use the legs for strength. So if you can hold this position without your hands, great. If you can't, then lift up your chest a little bit higher and find a position where your legs are gonna work and not your hands. If you wanna learn how to use your body and access these poses from an engagement standpoint, not just an alignment standpoint, that's backed by research and science, then I've created the Encyclopedia of Yoga Poses. And that's gonna be released when I open my online yoga studio. So if you want me to let you know when that opens up, just sign up for the newsletter and I'll send out an email as soon as I open up that studio. All right, peace.